Jung, Psychology and Alchemy.
Hey everyone, and welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Well, today we're journeying into a fascinating world where ancient wisdom meets modern psychology.
Ooh, I like where this is going. Alchemy.
You got it. We're cracking open psychology and alchemy to see how the symbols alchemists used can actually illuminate our own journeys of personal growth and transformation.
It's remarkable, isn't it? How these practices still resonate centuries later. These alchemists, they weren't just tinkering away trying to turn lead into gold. They were grappling with the profound process of inner transformation.
Right. It's like they had this whole secret language for personal growth. And one of the first symbols we encounter is pretty out there. A snake forming a circle around a sleeping person.
Ah, that's a classic example of how alchemists used imagery to point towards deeper meanings. See, in many traditions, the circle represents protection, that creation of a sacred space. And the sleeping person, that symbolizes vulnerability, that state where we're open to the unconscious with all its challenges and potential.
So it's like creating a safe container for inner work. A place to confront our shadows without being, totally overwhelmed.
Exactly. It's about setting those boundaries so we can go deep into those inner depths without getting lost. We all need a version of that symbolic circle, wouldn't you say? Especially as we embark on self-discovery.
Absolutely. Makes you think, what's our modern equivalent of that snake circle? Turning off our phones. Finally getting some quiet time.
Maybe. What matters is finding what works for you, that space where you can connect with your inner world.
Now, speaking of journeys, another symbol that pops up is a ladder or staircase, one with 7 steps to be exact.
Oh, the number 7. We're definitely stepping into mystical territory now.
Right, it's practically screaming spiritual significance.
Well, you're spot on. Those 7 steps, they represent a kind of ascension. Maybe not literally climbing a mountain, but more a metaphor for spiritual growth and initiation.
Makes me think of those ancient mystery traditions, the ones where initiates went through trials to gain wisdom.
Exactly. Each step on that ladder, it's a stage in our own development. Each one asks us to rise to new challenges, integrate new insights.
Oh, and you know what this reminds me of? Apuleius. Remember how he described the Isis mysteries? He talks about a process of solidification at the culmination of those rites.
That's right. At first, it sounds a bit strange, doesn't it? But it makes sense, in a way. We become more solid, more ourselves, more grounded as we go through those levels of initiation.
That is an interesting way to think about it. Personal growth isn't just about becoming all light and airy-fairy, but becoming more deeply rooted in who we truly are.
Exactly. It's about bringing it all together. The light, the shadow, the conscious, the unconscious. That's where wholeness emerges.
Okay, this next symbol threw me for a loop. Picture this. A rainbow bridge. But instead of walking over it like you'd expect, we're supposed to go under it.
Ah, yes. Always love that about alchemical symbolism. Challenges our assumptions, makes us look at things from a fresh perspective.
Well, it seems counterintuitive. Isn't the rainbow bridge like the path to the heavens? Why on earth would we go under it?
Because transformation, real transformation, it's not always about striving for something higher, trying to be above it all. Sometimes it's about surrendering to the flow of life. Even if it takes us to places we didn't expect, places that seem, well, lower.
That's a pretty powerful reminder, letting go of control, trusting that the journey itself will get us where we need to be.
Exactly. Sometimes the most life-changing experiences, the ones that truly transform us, they come from embracing the mystery, from surrendering to the current, even if it's headed in a direction we hadn't planned on.
Okay, get ready for this next one. This one takes us into the world of dreams. Imagine this. The Ace of Clubs, followed by the number 7.
Now that is intriguing. Let's unpack that.
Please do, because I'm hooked.
So the Ace of Clubs, with its shape, often represents beginnings and endings, that fresh start, or even a nod to the Christian Trinity. And then we have the number 7, which we've already touched on, often linked to stages of transformation.
So we've got beginnings, endings, and transformation all wrapped up in one symbol. What's the takeaway here? What were the alchemists trying to tell us?
There's this perfect Latin phrase for it, per crucium ad rosem.
Through the cross to the rose, through hardship to beauty.
Yes, that's it exactly. It speaks to the idea that true, deep transformation often involves challenges, even, dare I say, suffering. But it's through those trials, those difficult times, that we get the opportunity to emerge stronger, more resilient, like a rose that blooms even after weathering the harshest storms.
I love how they use such vivid imagery to talk about these universal truths. Growth, transformation.
They understood the power of simples. They speak to our subconscious, you see, bypass that logical mind and resonate on a deeper level.
It's like a visual map for the soul's journey. All right, what other treasures have you got for us?
Let's talk about mandalas for a second. When you think of a mandala, what comes to mind?
Intricate patterns, divine figures, they're like visual representations of the universe.
Right. Well, now imagine a mandala, but instead of a deity at the center, there's a gibbon.
A gibbon. Now that's a twist. I wasn't expecting that. What's the significance there?
It's a powerful reminder that transformation, it's not just about transcending our animal nature or trying to be perfect. It's about embracing all of ourselves, even those parts we might consider, well, primitive or shadowy.
So instead of ignoring those parts of ourselves, we should befriend them, even our inner gibbon.
Exactly. The gibbon embodies those primal instincts, that connection to the natural world, the raw, untamed aspects of who we are, the ones we often try to lock away. But the alchemists, they understood that true wholeness, it comes from bringing those parts into the light, not banishing them to the shadows.
I'm picking up on a theme here. It's like all these symbols are pieces of a bigger puzzle, right? Each one showing us a different angle on transformation, helping us see ourselves and our journeys in a whole new light.
You're absolutely right. And you know what else fits into that puzzle? Something the alchemists were really into. Numbers.
Yeah.
Particularly the numbers 7 and 8. They pop up quite a bit of these texts.
Now that you mention it, I did notice that. We've already talked about those 7 steps of ascension, but the number 8, what's the deal with that?
Well, think of it this way. The 8 kind of like builds on that transformative process that the 7 represents. Remember those 7 stages of spiritual growth we were talking about?
Yeah, I'm with you.
So this 8th sphere, it's like Paracelsus, he was a big deal alchemist, called it. It goes beyond those initial stages. It's like a level of transformation that's even more, mysterious, deeper. Something that goes beyond the usual ideas of spiritual development.
Okay, now you've really got me curious. It's like they're saying there's always more to uncover, another layer to peel back. What could that 8th sphere even be? What secrets does it hold?
That's part of the beauty, right?
Yeah.
Alchemy is full of these tantalizing questions. It keeps us searching, pushing beyond the limits of what we think we know. Embrace the mystery. Stay curious. Approach your own growth with a sense of wonder.
Good reminder that transformation, it's not a destination. There's always something new to discover.
Exactly. Just like with our journeys, the alchemists saw their work as cyclical, always evolving, returning to a state of wholeness. Which brings us to another really powerful symbol, the wheel.
Ah, the wheel of life. Makes sense, really. Cycles are everywhere you look in nature. The seasons changing, the tides ebbing and flowing. It's very, organic.
Right. The alchemists, they were all about observing the natural world. And they saw those cycles reflected in their work. Just like the seasons turning, their processes involved heating and cooling, dissolving and coagulating, finding that balance, that harmony within all that change.
So it's not about resisting those ups and downs, but riding them, trusting that even in the chaos, there's an order to things.
Beautifully said. That's the message of the wheel. Transformation, it's rarely ever a straight line. There are going to be highs and lows, breakthroughs and setbacks. It's learning to flow with it all, to find your footing, even when everything's in motion.
We can't talk about alchemy without talking about the actual materials, right? I mean, this wasn't all just theoretical. They were in their labs mixing stuff up. What can you tell us about that side of things?
Oh, it's fascinating. While they worked with a lot of different metals and minerals, their starting point was often called the prima materia. Think of it like this raw, unrefined substance, something that seems pretty insignificant at first glance, even found in, dirt or, get this, excrement.
Excrement? You're kidding. That's a pretty humble beginning.
It is, but that's the whole point. The alchemists, they believe that transformation, it often starts in the most unexpected places. In that seemingly ordinary stuff, they saw potential, a divine spark waiting to be awakened.
It's like saying, inside each of us, even in those parts we might not like so much, there's this seed of something incredible.
Exactly. Their goal was to take that raw prima materia and, through all these carefully orchestrated steps, help it become its best self, to reveal the gold hiding within.
So how did they actually do that? What did that process look like?
They had this guiding principle, kind of like an alchemical equation for transformation. Solve et coagula.
Solve et coagula. Sounds like a magic spell.
Maybe it is in a way. It means dissolve and coagulate. They believed that to really transform something, you had to break it down first. Dissolve it into its core components. Deconstruct before you can reconstruct.
So it's like taking something apart and putting it back together, but better.
Exactly. And this wasn't just for working with materials. It was a metaphor for inner transformation, too.
Right. We all go through those times when we feel lost, broken down.
And those times, those dissolutions, they're essential for growth. They help us let go of old patterns, beliefs that no longer serve us. It creates space for something new.
Like that saying, you got to break a few eggs to make an omelet. Sometimes we need to break down to really grow.
Nicely put. And that's where the coagula part comes in. After that breakdown, that letting go, that's when we can rebuild, integrate those lessons, and emerge as how should I put it, a more authentic version of ourselves.
So we've got the prima materia, we've got the solve et coagula, but what's the end game here? What were they actually trying to make?
One of their ultimate goals was to create the legendary Philosopher's Stone.
Oh, right. The one that could supposedly turn metal into gold and grant immortality. Talk about ambitious.
Right. But remember, for the alchemists, the physical transformation was really symbolic. It pointed towards something deeper. That Philosopher's Stone, it represented this state of spiritual perfection, a union of opposites, a kind of wholeness that went beyond the limitations of the everyday world.
So it wasn't about some magical object, but a state of being, of spiritual enlightenment and inner harmony.
Precisely. It's like the peak of the alchemical journey, becoming one with the divine, both within and in the cosmos, becoming the best, truest versions of themselves.
Powerful stuff. It makes me wonder, did any alchemist ever achieve it? Did anyone ever actually create the Philosopher's Stone?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Lots of stories and legends, but no concrete proof. But you see, for many of them, it was more about the process itself than the end result. The transformation, the constant striving, that's what really mattered.
It's like they found something more valuable than any stone, the power of the journey itself.
Exactly. And that's a big lesson for us. We might not have a lab or be trying to make gold, but we can still approach our growth with that same curiosity, dedication, that willingness to embrace what we don't know.
It's about the journey, trusting the process. Each step, each challenge, it's all part of something bigger leading us towards our potential. But these alchemists, they weren't just, making it up as they went along, were they? They had to have some kind of system, some guidance for these experiments.
You're right. They relied on this whole body of knowledge, passed down often in cryptic texts and symbols.
Cryptic texts? That sounds intriguing.
Oh, they were. Full of allegories, metaphors, symbolism. Not easy to understand. But that was by design. The alchemists believed this knowledge, it wasn't something you just, picked up. You had to earn it through study, contemplation, really wrestling with the material and with your inner world.
Like an initiation process in itself. Had to prove yourself worthy.
Precisely. They understood that real transformation, it's more than just head knowledge. It takes a shift in consciousness. And those texts, with their hidden meanings and symbolism, they were like a doorway, inviting the alchemist to see the world in a whole new way.
Trying to safeguard that knowledge, make sure it only reached those who were ready, those who wouldn't misuse it.
Exactly. And, those cryptic texts, they were also filled with those symbols we've been talking about. Remember, symbols were like their secret language, not just random images, but powerful tools for unlocking hidden parts of themselves, connecting to something bigger.
So by studying those symbols, trying to decipher them, the alchemists were engaging in a kind of psychological process, accessing a deeper level of awareness.
Absolutely. That's one of the reasons alchemy is so relevant to us. Even now, we may not be in a lab, but we can still use those symbols to explore our inner worlds and support our own transformations.
Like a kind of active imagination, but one that's been around for centuries. A way to tap into the wisdom of our unconscious, use it to fuel our growth. But this idea of transformation, of humans taking on this almost godlike role, didn't that ruffle some feathers back in the day? Weren't some people freaked out by that?
You're onto something. Alchemy's relationship with the religion was complicated. Some alchemists, they were devoutly religious. They saw their work as a form of serving a higher power, uncovering that divine spark hidden within creation.
So for them, transforming matter, revealing its potential, it was like taking part in creation itself.
Exactly. The lab was a sacred space. And the alchemical process, it was a form of prayer, a way of connecting with the divine through, the language of transformation.
But not everyone saw it that way, right?
Yeah, true. Some religious leaders, They weren't so happy about it. They thought it was blasphemous, humans trying to play God, achieve immortality without divine grace.
It's that classic tension between science and religion, isn't it? The desire to understand, to explore, but also recognizing there might be something bigger than us.
Exactly. And that tension, it wasn't always pretty, but it did lead to some really interesting discussions about the divine, about humanity's place in the universe, and the limits of what we can know.
A debate that's still going on today, in many ways. Speaking of ancient texts and hidden knowledge, I came across one that caught my eye. The Abtala from, get this, 1732. What can you tell us about it?
Oh, it's fascinating. It describes this experiment using rainwater, exposing it to the midday sun, basically harnessing those subtle energies of the natural world.
Wow, that's over 300 years old. It's amazing to think they were already exploring those ideas back then. Subtle energies, interconnectedness. It's like they were tuning into the magic of the everyday world.
Exactly. And that's something we can all learn from, even now.
It's incredible how this whole alchemy thing keeps coming back to that interconnectedness, you know?
Yeah.
The magic that's hidden in plain sight. It's not just about the experiment itself, but an inner shift.
You've hit the nail on the head. What makes alchemy so compelling is its emphasis on the alchemist's inner world. It wasn't enough to simply observe transformations on the outside. It was about cultivating a new way of seeing.
I noticed how the texts often talk about using intellectus and imaginatio. Sounds like they were tapping into both the rational and the intuitive.
Absolutely. They understood the importance of finding that balance. Intellectus being that capacity for logic and analysis, while imaginatio was more about accessing deeper truths through intuition, symbolism, even creativity.
So it wasn't just about following a recipe, but bringing your own intuition to the table.
Exactly. They believed the alchemist's state of mind, their consciousness, played a huge role in the outcome of their work. They talked about cultivating imaginatio vera, true imagination, as a way to perceive things that are hidden from our ordinary senses.
So it's like they're saying imagination isn't just daydreaming, it's a way to access a deeper understanding of things.
Exactly. And you see this connection between alchemy and things like meditation or dream work. Training our minds to see beyond the surface, to understand the interconnectedness of everything, those hidden patterns, those links between the inner and outer worlds.
It's amazing how much these ancient practices still influence how we view personal growth and spirituality today. It does make you wonder, though, about the role of women in all this. Was alchemy a boys' club?
That's a really interesting question, and honestly, it highlights how much we still don't know about the history of alchemy. Most of the texts we have were written by men, but there's more and more evidence that women were more involved than we previously thought.
That's fascinating. What do we know about these women alchemists?
Well, their stories are often buried,
Yeah.
hidden within the larger narrative, but we know they were there. Records of women working alongside their husbands or fathers in laboratories. Some women even had their own alchemical practices, passing their knowledge down to other women.
Like a secret history, a whole other side to this already mysterious world.
It really is. And it's a good reminder that the story of alchemy, like any historical narrative, is always evolving as we uncover new perspectives.
Makes you wonder what other secrets and untold stories are still out there, just waiting to be discovered in those old texts. We've covered so much ground in this deep dive. Symbols, processes, philosophies, even a glimpse into the lives of these alchemists. I feel like we've barely scratched the surface.
That's the thing about alchemy. It's vast, multifaceted. It's a lifetime of exploration. Always something new to learn, to uncover, to discover, both about ourselves and the universe.
So if there was one thing you want our listeners to take away from this deep dive into the world of alchemy, what would it be?
That at its heart, alchemy is about transformation, not just of materials, but of ourselves. It reminds us that we all have this capacity for growth, for change, for becoming more whole, more authentically who we are. And that journey, that transformation, is ongoing, a lifelong exploration.
It's about embracing every twist and turn, trusting that even the hard parts, the challenges, can lead to growth and self-discovery.
Exactly. And as we've seen, alchemy provides this incredible language for understanding that journey. It encourages us to listen to our intuition, pay attention to our dreams, and see the world with a sense of wonder, acknowledging those hidden connections and the potential for magic in the everyday.
What a beautiful way to put it. It's like they're sending us a message across time, reminding us that we are all alchemists in our own way.
That's it. And as we wrap things up, I want to leave your listeners with this. What are your symbols of transformation? What images, ideas, or experiences resonate with your journey?
What a powerful question. I hope everyone takes some time to reflect on that. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep seeking out the magic that's all around you.